This is Smoking Out the Closet. Now, here are your hosts, Alex and Rayven Greer.
Hi, I'm Rayven. I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Alex. I use they, them pronouns.
And welcome to another episode of
Smoking Out the Closet.
We're celebrating our 1-year anniversary of recording our podcast.
This is so cool. This is a big thing. I tried not to gush too much about it to you personally. When you first told me about it and you shared that memory with me, I was like, whoa, this is so cool. To think that we got this far, with our podcast.
Yeah, so we're recording a couple days early, but the episode will ironically drop on the exact day of our first actual episode, exactly 1 year later.
It's so cool.
So before we get into that, I wanted to talk about the strain we're using today.
Yes.
It was Kind Tree's Super Glue Haze.
This is interesting.
Oh, do you have the container so we could do the terpenes?
It's over here. Oh, ow. Sorry. So, I got this from work. Oh my goodness. Kind Tree, come on. I love you. You might want to avert your eyes. I need to use a flashlight. I can't see because I'm blind. The terpenes on the Super Glue Haze, it sits at 1.475% myrcene, which that's almost 1.5% of myrcene for flower, which is kind of crazy. 0.43% osmium, which is interesting to see that as the second highest terp is something, because you barely ever see osmium.
Mm-hmm.
And then 0.209 of caryophyllene, and then under 2% of everything else. Under 0.2.
The cannabinoids look like?
It's 17.74% THCA, 2.438% THC, 1.2% CBGA, and then 0.104 CBG.
Okay.
So it has a nice spread. It's very, very interesting. I have had one other Kind Tree strain before, and I can't remember what it was. I was talking to my coworkers about this today. I was like, I've had their flower once. They're not bad.
Blue agave?
No, that's my tree.
What's a Blue Dream?
No.
I want to say it was Blue something.
I was going to buy their Wonka, and I regret not buying it because I heard it was amazing.
Yeah.
But I haven't had a bad experience with Kind Tree's flower. Their carts, on the other hand, I'm not a huge fan of, but their flower is decent.
We've had a patient actually had a problem with one of their flowers recently.
Oh.
They didn't fucking fill it.
The fuck? This, I was surprised. I opened it, and it was popcorns. I don't know if it was just the one that I got in the batch of this. I don't know, because...
Well, before we go on there, we should probably explain popcorn to some of our audience.
Exactly. I keep forgetting. Some new peoples.
So... Oh, yeah, we didn't even finish our intro, first off.
No, we didn't. We're all over the place.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry. It's this. I feel like it's a strain.
It's a strain.
It's
and
a
it's
strain.
in the day we've had.
Gosh.
But we are Smoking Out the Closet. We are a queer podcast that talks about cannabis, the LGBT community, sex, life, and everything in between and beyond, and popcorn.
Yeah, and popcorn this episode. So popcorn buds. For those of you who don't know, they're called by a bunch of different things. The synonym is also smalls. They're tiny buds. They're small, like... Some of them are pea size, some of them are a little bit bigger, some of them just like shaped like popcorn.
Actually, there's a reason why they're called popcorn. Besides the shape, it's actually referring to the part of the plant.
Oh, really? I didn't know that was a thing too.
So it's that part. So you have on the cannabis plant that big weed that you're actually able to grind up and use, right? That big part of the bud on the top is called the cola.
Yeah.
And then you go down underneath where their leaves. There's like where it's starting to kind of shoot off to its own sides. Yeah. Those are popcorn. They're basically the under part of the sugar leaves.
Oh, that's so interesting.
So they're like little buds on lower parts of the stem. The cola is the primo, what you want to have.
That's what Grassroots uses for their premium flower, is just the cola, is what they say.
Allegedly.
I haven't bought any Grassroots flower yet. I kind of want to, though.
I don't trust anyone that's owned underneath Curaleaf.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't trust Curaleaf. Like, Grassroots was probably really good before they were bought out, but sadly they were bought out by Curaleaf not too long ago, and I don't fucking trust them.
I know people are that way with Strain before Strain got bought out. They got burned whenever they were like Liberty before they became Strain. Ow! And it was just a bad time for them, so they try to stay away from Strain. Strain, I've had nothing but good experiences with.
Same with Strain, but Strain owns Liberty. Or the other way around.
Oh, really?
It's all holistic,
farms. Yeah. Before all of that happened.
I'm pretty sure they always owned it.
I don't know. There's one specific person who told me about it.
Anywho, someone will probably correct us.
Yeah, somebody correct us. I don't freaking remember what was said. This was a while ago.
But back to the review. Sorry, I don't know why I'm super itchy right now.
I'm kind of feeling it too. I don't know. I think it might have been because I was outside. Also, freaking bug bites. Can I say? I want summer to be over.
So do you want to do the first half of the review, or do you want me to do the first half?
I'll do the first half. I can't quite remember what this other strain was. I think I might have talked about it on the podcast briefly. It's okay. I feel more aware, which is sometimes not the greatest thing when I have ADHD, because I pick up on little tiny things and fixate too much on them. Like what happened earlier before the podcast, before we had to record, I had to go get changed because I was still kind of in like not super comfy pants, and I still had like sports bra on, and I was like, man, this is kind of tight. It was kind of, I was focusing on the wrong things. Instead of being present in the moment, I was present in my clothes. It was not comfy.
Yeah.
So certain strains do that to me. It like heightens the wrong things, I feel like. But this strain is interesting, and I can see the use for it, or if somebody would like it like this, I guess. It would be good for, I feel like, depression.
Yeah.
More than anxiety.
I feel that, and I think that's a really cool thing with this podcast. I'll go a little more about it, is like how our brains work, because I have a non-ADHD brain and you have an ADHD brain. So it's things that I find stimulating are in, what's the opposite of stimulating? Inhibitors?
Sedating,
yeah, to you. So this is really good, kind of like for those sides of the spectrum.
Yeah.
What would you rate it?
2.5. I probably wouldn't go for it again. If it wasn't, I'm just going to say it. If it wasn't so cheap, I probably wouldn't have bought it. I just wanted to try something different. And also just something to have around that if I'm just like chilling on a day off or whatever, because I know I have a long weekend coming up. That's probably when I'll use this, because it's not quite an everyday driver for me. Am I glad I tried it? Yes. Am I mad at it? Not really. I'm just not. It wasn't what I was expecting, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like if I used more of it, I feel like I would have gone to sleep. Because that myrcene is an anti-inflammatory and a sedator, which is really high. And
it was a stimulant for me. I don't know what made it a stimulant for me.
I think it's just because the way your brain works.
The way my brain works. If your brain worked the way mine does.
But I mean, it sounds sad.
Yeah, it is very sad flower.
Compared to the Insta we had last week.
That sounds fluffy. Yeah, I don't know. It does sound very,
Welcome to the
sad.
ASMR part of the podcast.
Yeah, if you don't like this, please take your earbuds out now. But yeah, this is very sad sounding flower.
And like, it
looks kind of dry. I didn't break it up and put it in the grinder. You did that part. Yeah, but it looked dry.
It didn't feel as dry as some of the previous flower we've had on the podcast, which is why I'm not rating it as harsh.
Can I say real quick side tangent? This is why I feel like as a bud tender, it's nice working at the dispensary, because you can shake your weed, and I feel like that holds weight. You can tell a lot about that flower by how it sounds in the container and what container they use and how the sounds are different in them. Yeah, it makes a difference, because that sitting on the shelf sounds crunchy.
But here's the biggest thing I have an issue with this is not labeled as smalls.
No, it's not labeled as Smalls.
or popcorn or anything like that.
Nothing like that.
It wasn't flavor. There was like no flavor to it.
Yeah, there's like nothing to it.
Not even like a weed taste. It was just smoke. That's all I was tasting.
Yeah.
Was the smoke.
Smoke and warm. It's just kind of warm in the back of your throat. That's all I felt.
And for being like almost 1.5% of myrcene, I'm not feeling much of the effects.
No.
So I'm honestly giving this a 2.
I'm not feeling a whole lot of pain relief either, and you would think that like you would feel something.
Yeah, I'm giving this a 2. Now we both have it. We both have this strain. I have another container that's not popcorn or as bad, so I'm actually going to take pictures of that and keep some of the popcorn around it from your container.
Yeah.
Because this is it's horrible. It is like so horrible, so small, poorly packaged, and like that's probably just on the batch, but like still, like it's not very healthy. Like the pestles are almost brown.
Yeah.
This was not a healthy plant. And I feel like it suffered from it, and we can taste that.
Yeah.
So
not a profile.
Not a good one on you, Kind Tree. Now I will say this is probably the second time I've scored something this low, and that's from the first solo episode I did.
No, I have a question.
Huh?
Would you say that the poor effects would probably be, in this case, from the grow or from the cure? I feel like, to me, it would be from the cure, just the way the plant looks. And that might have dried that way. It might have cured that way and lost some of that. But you also have that almost 1.5% of terpene in there. So
yeah,
I don't know if it might have been the way it was grown then.
There's so many factors with it, with like growing your own plant, curing it. There's so many factors. This, to quote the Cool Nerd Weed Show, when life gives you boof, make moon rocks. This is great for moon rocks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's horrible. Second time I've scored this low on something, and that's sad.
Wow.
Because like
I want to find what that other strain was from them now, because I remember it not being half bad. I remember having something from Kind Tree that wasn't that bad.
I've had some flower from Kind Tree that wasn't terrible. I can't remember what it was either. But yeah, this is the first one I've had that I've actually kind of been disappointed with. But this is overall like the second or third flower I've had from them.
Yeah, this is like the second strain I've had from them. Yeah.
So you want to talk about us being
around for a year?
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. Can we like think back to of all of the stuff we've covered on this podcast so far? It's crazy, and we barely scratched the surface with any of this and all of this.
We did a very brief intro on. We talked a little about it a couple of times on polyamory. We did a special on the ABCs of Pride and basically terms you'll be able to find there. We didn't do a deep dive on some of that stuff, which we actually are going to today.
Woo.
I've added like we didn't do on this day in history with like queer history and stuff, because like I added that because I was like, oh, there's not a whole lot of like queer stuff, because more often we usually talk about cannabis. So I wanted to add queer history, and I can't find a whole lot of like cannabis history.
It's just because there's not a lot of it anymore, because the whole like war on drugs shit demonized a lot of it, and yeah, it's just not something that's readily available to find usually, other than like certain landmarks of definitely like whenever shit got banned, then. But a little quieter victories are kind of harder to find. And stuff.
Yeah, and so like I'm trying to find that, but more often I find more queer history, which is not bad. I still like it because it's a big aspect of the podcast. We've been doing this for 52 weeks in a year.
We're in a different apartment now.
Yeah, we're in a different area.
Yeah, we're in Pittsburgh now. We started this when we lived in State College.
Yeah. Working. So, well, let's turn back the clock to the beginning.
Yeah.
So I started this idea working in a restaurant with two of my coworkers because I was very new to the cannabis at the time, and they were very new to being queer. And so we were going to use this to kind of like answer questions we had each week for each other. And that was going to be the podcast. They kind of didn't show up quite a bit, and I got some like, well, if you're like this at work, how are you going to be with the podcast?
Yeah.
And so I was worried about that, but I was like, you know what? I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, and then just kind of they left. I stopped talking to them, and I was like, you know what? I still want to do this though, so I talked to you about it, and you were like, fuck yeah!
I was like, fuck yeah, why not? I mean, we talk about this shit anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, do you listen to our car rides that we have between like, because we were driving to your parents' house, and that was a ride. It was like what, an hour.
About an hour,
And
hour
I
and
was
a
like,
half.
well, we have deep ass conversations in the car. Just throw a fucking microphone down. We're good.
Yeah.
Let's just do it.
And it kind of changed to us more just having discussions and then having news stuff.
And then as we evolved into actually working in the company, it's become more, hey, we're going to like, you know, we're talking more about more. We know more. We bring more information to the table. We get to pass it on to everybody who listens. It's great.
It is.
And it's a great outlet. I get to talk to you. I get to sit across this little table, this little TV tray from you every week and talk to one of my favorite people in the world. And I know a bunch of you enjoy listening to us just talk to each other.
And we made like really cool strides. Like we've interacted with like some really big name podcasters.
We've made so many cool friends along the way.
We made some people like who are up and starters like us, like with Smoke to Smoke.
Can we talk about our very first guest on this show?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I was so nervous. I need to also get back into that podcast because
Same.
I was also working at the parent company for the restaurant you were at when you first started this podcast, and we had them on, and I was that was so cool.
Yeah, Jess from or Jessica from
Heinous Investigations.
Heinous Investigations, yeah.
That was so cool.
I don't know why I blanked on that.
I need to get caught up. I've been horrible. I've been getting back into The Dream, Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Craner from Welcome to Night Vale. I've been getting back into Welcome to Night Vale to have them on the podcast. That'd be cool still.
But then you have we've interacted with Cornered Weed Show.
Yeah.
They follow us and like our stuff. We interacted with Weed and Grub. We've interacted with like Bex Heller, who's a big name cannabis and non-binary person.
Yeah.
Who's been very vocal about both. Chris from the Honeybee Collective out in Colorado, interact with them. Brian Box Brown, who Legalization Nation or something like that. I'm sorry, Brian, I'm butchering your book, your comic, but has a prominent pro cannabis comic in a newspaper.
Promandy Bros.
Oh yeah,
Promandy
Bros
retweeted us.
We were media sponsors for the Pittsburgh Cannabis Festival.
That was crazy. That all the exposure we got. How many amazing like listeners we have from there. If you're tuning in from, that's where you met us. Hello.
And it's been an amazing year, and I'm very thankful for all of our listeners, for all the opportunities that we've had and are going to have, and I'm very thankful to have such an amazing partner and co-host and just loving person to be on this journey with.
Can I just say this has been so much fun?
Yeah.
And I say it's like work part 2. I joke that it's like work part 2 because it does help with work, and my boss is all for me like talking about podcast stuff and doing podcast stuff because I bring that information from the podcast also over to work,
and vice versa,
which is a great asset. But like it's been so much fun, and I'm like, yeah, it's like work part 2, but it's because I take it seriously. And I love this podcast, and I take it seriously when I'm like, I want to talk about this thing, and I want to have notes, and I didn't get to do it because ADHD brain, but like, keep me on track, Rayven. And I don't know, I love being able to just talk too. It's a nice place. It's a nice outlet.
And I'm hoping, with the move and everything from like State College to Pittsburgh, some events we wanted to go kind of and work kind of got a little jumbled, so knock on my desk, knock on wood, next year we'll be able to go to more events, to go through things, because unfortunately I'm working on October 1st and 2nd when the Pennsylvania Cannabis Festival in Kutztown, the second one of the year.
I don't have the schedule for that. My pharmacist and I were talking today about that. If that lines up with my weekend off, cool. I might drive out there, but also it's out like towards like Cutstown's out like Philly way.
Yeah, a little, yeah.
And I'm just like, Nyeh.
It's like southeast of where we used to live, about like 20, 40 minutes.
My thing is I just don't want to go by myself.
Yeah.
That's my thing. I want to have somebody with me if I was to go out there. But
we met an amazing. Speaking of meeting amazing people, we got a partner that's been on the show that's been really cool and supportive. Mia.
Yeah, we have our amazing partner out here, and like, I don't know. I feel like we really fell into our own once we got away from the kind of like, it was the state college middle step bullshit jobs that we were at. And then now being somewhere where we can be more relaxed, more comfortable, more ourselves, we're less fucking stressed.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's also this fucking industry we're in because, yes, there's high turnover, but the ones we work at, I know for our area, are very, yes, let's go, let's get you promoted, let's do this, let's train you, very much of what needs to be in this industry. And some people online or say, if you work in this industry, like in Pennsylvania or Ohio or whatever states are selling like eighths for like $35 plus, you're part of the problem because you're being complicit. There's no reason why I can't be working in this industry, helping people make sure they're getting the medicine, make sure that they're getting exactly what's going to help them. Unlike some other dispensaries, which I won't say name, that you kind of just, here's your shit, get out. And at the same time, with one hand, help them, and then on the other hand, flip off the corporation I work for, flip off all these other corporations, and tell them they need to get their shit together. There's no reason I can't do both.
You can do both. And it's like, yo, I see both sides, too, of what it does working at these places and what it's like being a patient at these places and stuff. And, like, if being on the inside gives you definitely a better perspective of, hey, you need to get your shit together because now I definitely see what you're doing.
And it's really nice because, like, I didn't think too much about these MSOs since starting the podcast because, like, I think I was, a year or two already in as a patient when we started this podcast.
Yeah.
So, like, I didn't really realize how bad these multi-state operators are. There's so much I've learned from like getting our podcast on Cannabis, getting our podcast on Twitter, getting our podcast on Instagram that I've learned from other people, and just how much of like how bad it is out on the East Coast. And that just gave me a bigger drive to record and produce more episodes because everyone's seeing California, Colorado, all the West Coast, right?
Nobody's really seeing what it's like here on the East
side. Because all the rec states out there is really great, but all the rec states here have some issues, like New Jersey, Verano, and a couple other. What was the other dispensary chain out there? I can't remember, but Verano Holdings. There's been so many reports about them breaking regulations and everything out there, and they've been caught with mold in their flower.
I saw that on Google the other day. Like, it was on my Google News feed.
And keep in mind, they have to grow their own shit. So they're only selling Verano flower, as far as I know. They just signed a deal with Mike Tyson, which, fuck you for that. You're working with a convicted fucking rapist. Okay, that's fine.
Jesus.
Like, I hate that. Some of these fucking sponsors and anything. But, like, anyway.
That's a different soapbox.
Yeah, but, like, we're learning so much about this stuff and, like, all the good and the bad. And, like, wow, yes, these people who brought medical marijuana, they're also buying all these small mom and pop shops. And it's kind of harder from someone out west to see that and report it here. Like, yes, they do report it. Like, Cool Nerd Weed Show does talk about this stuff, but we're actually able to see it, eyes on the ground, exactly right here, right now, as we're affected by it.
Yeah. We have a very unique perspective on this podcast.
We do, and there's so many other people. Like, there's the New Hampshire Patient Perspective has a podcast. That's their Twitter handle. I don't recall their podcast. I'll put it in the show notes. But they also have an East Coast perspective, and it's very interesting. But that's us. Like, I don't know anyone else on the East Coast. Like, Cadabra on Smoke to Smoke does Arizona.
Mhm.
No, Arkansas.
Arkansas.
One of the A states.
Cadabra, you'll let us know. You listen to this podcast.
I'm pretty sure it's Arkansas. I had their message from a while ago that I couldn't figure out how to put to the episode.
Sorry, the state song started playing in my head.
But yeah, it's like, I will say this strain gives me a lot of brain fog.
Yeah, this is not good for ADHD.
No, it's like not even like a good high brain fog. That just gives me a brain fog. Like, you wake up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Kind of brain fog. I don't like this.
I don't like this either. This is the feeling that I smoke to get rid of.
Yeah. It's like that depression brain fog.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan.
But we're seeing so much change since we started this. Like, I never would have thought that Keith would be in the program.
Yeah.
Ever. We've seen so much more products come out. We've seen like recalls. We've seen a pardon system, which I forgot to put in the show notes and put it on yesterday for the last episode. Whoops.
Oops.
But I'll put it on this episode too. Like, we're actually seeing a pardon system here in Pennsylvania, and literally seeing people being like, hey, if you don't have access to this, come down to this city area on this day and we'll like help you with it. And if you aren't eligible, we'll help you figure out another way. And it's nice, but we're also seeing the bad side with like blocking home grow and corporations being assholes, because fucking that's corporations.
Yeah.
And it's been an amazing time.
Airplane.
And I don't think I would have traded any of it for the world.
I wouldn't either. This has been such a cool ride to be on with this podcast, and just following everything that's going on in this state, and
surrounding states too.
Yeah, to be a part of it all,
right? And here's to like looking forward to like bigger events, going to like cannabis cups and everything, and trying new things, going out new places, and recording for you guys.
Going to Colorado for Jens.
Oh yeah, I love that's a bucket list trip right there.
Yeah. Going to Colorado for Jens.
But before we go on the break, I just want to do, for this part, just thank you for all the listeners we have. I know we don't have a really big listening pool, but I just want y'all to know that for those of you who've been with us from the beginning, to those of y'all who just kind of joined us, after a while, after the Cannabis Festival, or just randomly here,
we appreciate you.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate you, because like, I never really meant this to hit a lot of people, but the fact that we have more than 3 listeners makes me happy.
Yeah.
I think we have like 15, 17, I think, average listeners, cool, according to Anchor's analytics. I don't know how accurate that is, but for those of you who...
We have enough for Rocky Shadowcast.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to our show. We'll be back here after Future Me on this day in history. And then we'll be doing some new stuff.
Yeah.
Welcome to another part of On This Day in History, looking at September 13th. Starting in 1931, Lily Ebel, born 28 December of 1882, dies September 13th, 1931. Possible intersex and recipient of the first sex reassignment surgery, dies. She married Gerda Gottlieb in 1904 in Denmark, a marriage that the King of Denmark invalidated in 1930 in Germany. Lily dies of post-surgical complications as her body rejects her new uterus. The film Danish Girl is based on her story. In 1932, Man into Woman, the story of Lily Ebel's life, is published. 1975, in Canada, a large gay rights march sponsored by the Coalition for Gay Rights in Ontario calls for the reinstatement of John Damon, who had been fired as a judge for the Ontario Jockey Club because he was gay. Protesters called for the inclusion of sexual orientation in the Human Rights Code. 1977, Soap premieres on ABC. when the then unknown Billy Crystal plays Jodi Dallas, one of TV's first prominent and sympathetic gay characters. 1995 in Canada, The Celluloid Closet premieres at the Toronto International Film Festival. It is a 1995 American documentary film written and directed by Rob Epstein and Jeffrey Friedman. The film is based on Vito Russo's book of the same name, first published in 1981, and on lecture and film clip presentations he gave in 1972 to 1982. Russo had researched the history of how motion pictures, especially Hollywood film, had portrayed gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender characters. The film was given a limited release in select United States theater, including the Castro Theater in San Francisco in April 1996, and then shown on HBO. 1996, the U.S. Congress defeats a bill that would ban employment discrimination against gay men and lesbians. On Pat Robertson's 700 Club, Jerry Falwell says feminists, gays, and lesbians were responsible for the 9/11 attack. In 2004, in Australia, the Lesbian and Gay Kingdom declares war on Australia's government for its failure to recognize same-sex marriages. They form a micronation and, under unjust enrichment law, demand territorial compensation. While there was no military action, it did cement the kingdom's assertion that they exist as an independent country. The Gay and Lesbian Kingdom of Coral Sea Islands, also known as the Gay Kingdom of Coral Sea, for example, on postage stamps, was established as a symbolic political protest by a group of gay rights activists based in Australia, declared in 2004 in response by the Australian government to refuse to recognize same-sex marriages. It was founded on Australia's external overseas territory of the Coral Sea Islands, a group of uninhabited islets east of the Great Barrier Reef. It is an expression of queer nationalism. This has been On This Day in History. And real quick, before I bring it back to the second half of the episode, we are giving a little trigger warning for the latter half of the second half, probably around what would it be, it's a little after what we talk about Biden, and we start going into gender stuff. We felt that maybe some of the topics we bring up about dysphoria, euphoria, trans identity might be a little triggering or upsetting for people. So if you do have issues with this, please, by all means, you don't happen to listen to the second half. You can stop the episode right here. We will not be upset with you. You have to look out for your mental health first. But we do talk about a little bit about non-binary and what it means and gender identity. So without further ado, we're going to start with the Biden administration and going to go into some non-binary discussion. And we are back. So quick reminder real quick. I brought it up a little bit before the break, but the PA cannabis pardon system, that website is www.pa.gov/guides/MJ dash hyphen tac, whatever you want to call it, pardon /. So I took a little bit, quoting a little bit from, I'll know when I'm quoting from Marijuana Moment, because I kind of pieced this from a couple other places. The White House suggests that President Biden does not have any moves or plans for cannabis before the midterms. Now, keep in mind, what about maybe at most a month ago, someone asked him "Hey, do you have any plans?" He's like, "We're working on some things for cannabis and the pardons and everything."
Mm-hmm.
The White House press secretary on Friday stated, "I don't have anything else to share in the coming weeks." This suggested that there is no plan to do anything with Joe Biden's campaign promise to get those who are incarcerated for cannabis charges. While there is a program for a full pardon here in Pennsylvania, I feel like that this is more a thing from John Fetterman and Tom Wolf than Biden. Biden was asked about a month or so ago if he was going to do anything, and he responded with, "There's something in the works that's totally fallen flat, and there's been no updates ever since." Now here's the part where I'm quoting Kyle Yeager's article in Marijuana Moment. Which, hi Kyle, we talked to you a little bit, talked about you
Hi.
before. We follow you officially now. The other day I followed you.
Cool.
Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was pressed on whether the president intended to talk about marijuana before the election, with the journalist pointing out that the topic is being raised by, quote, a lot of his allies, end quote. Jean-Pierre acknowledged the questions about Biden's plans for cannabis policy and have routinely come up in press briefings, and then reiterated that his position remains on the same level. Adult use legalization to states, reschedule marijuana, federally decriminalize the plant, and expunge prior records. Yet, nothing's being said about what he's doing about it. No, like, introductions or support of, like, Chuck Schumer's bill. Nothing with, like, hey, I'm pushing this. No executive fucking order.
Words are words without actions.
Exactly.
Words just are words.
The quote, the president believes that there are too many people serving unduly long sentences for nonviolent drug crimes, a disproportionate of whom are black or brown, end quote, the press secretary said. However, while marijuana reform is strongly popular issue, especially among Democrats, she implied that he hadn't planned to leverage reform before the election unless that's less than 10 weeks away. So basically just holding it like a little like carrot in front of us. Much of what Jean-Pierre said included a reference to Biden's clemency actions in April, echoing points she had made in the past. Though this specificity of how long not to expect the president to address the cannabis is new. The White House was similarly asked about Biden's plan to fulfill his cannabis campaign pledges just 2 weeks ago, with the press secretary saying that she didn't have anything to announce today at this point, after being asked about a recent call to action by Pennsylvania. I don't know why I read that as president. Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, who is currently running for U.S. Senate seat. Quote, this is something that he has talked about during the campaign, and you've heard him many other times talking about his drug policy focus and what's important to him. End quote, she said at the time. Quote, we just don't have anything to speak to. End quote. Biden and Fetterman did briefly discuss marijuana policy reform during a meeting near Pittsburgh on Monday, like this Monday.
Yeah. I heard we were talking about that at work, that
yes.
Fetterman was out here. And
that was part of the same meeting with the pardon, which we talked about a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
A campaign spokesperson for Senate candidates said the two talked about cannabis scheduling and executive authority to enact reform. So basically, it was just a lot of words with no fucking actions brought to it.
A lot of hot air.
Exactly. Now, Tom Wolfe and John Fetterman are both pro-cannabis, both trying to get it legalized in Pennsylvania, both trying to get sorry, I just need a sip of your drink. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I'm over here ripping my leg up with my fingernails because I'm really itchy.
Both have like really been pro-cannabis. So the fact that like there's people in jail and everything, and John Fetterman's literally been adamantly upset about Biden's lack of work. Because I remember when Biden first came into office, and it was like maybe like 6 months after his State of Union address, like his first State of Union address,
mm-hmm.
or something like that. He was asked, what are you doing to fulfill your campaign promise? And he goes, well, I want to understand the science first because I still believe it's a gateway drug. This man has been fucking dragging his fucking feet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know what's going on in that man's head. I don't want to pretend to know. But I do understand that as someone who's like near the end of the silent generation, when he was born.
Yeah.
A lot of people think he's a boomer. He's not. He's actually the silent generation. he was very part of the Reefer Madness propaganda when it came out. He wasn't there when it first came out, but like in like the 40s and 50s movies, he was a kid.
Yeah.
Because if I recall, he was born in 1944. So when the Reefer Madness movie came out publicly, that was like mid 50s. And like his approval rating's going a bit up lately because, you know, all the shit he's been talking and everything. Yeah, he was born in 1942.
Okay.
So he was around for when Reefer Madness came out.
Yeah, can we just say real quick how savage Biden has been
Yes, because
recently?
the original one came out in 1936, and then it got re-released.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, do you want to talk about like Biden being savage as
Oh,
fuck
good
lately?
God. That is the TikToks I have seen that you have sent me of him just like, no. Like there was a Trumper at one of his rallies.
Yeah, at his campaign
his
trail.
campaign trail. There was a Trumper like trying to give him shit.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, no. He's like waving the guards off. Just let him go. Just let him.
He has a right to be an idiot.
He has a right to be an idiot. Yeah. It's just like, fuck. Damn.
But like that's the thing too, is like he's doing some good, he's done some bad, and just like every president before him, I've critiqued him. Like did I like seeing that we've had a black president? Yes. Did I think Obama did a lot of good? Yes. Did I agree with fucking everything Obama did? No. Like fucking bombing a bunch of kids in the Middle East, I don't think that was necessary. All those drone attacks he incited in the Middle East, fucking not necessary. But that's the thing. There's a difference between voting for a president does some good, but still critiquing him and not blindly fucking worshiping him like he's a fucking god.
Exactly.
And so that's the thing. Like a lot of people don't understand, but like with this recent thing this is one of the biggest critiques, and I've always had this with politicians. And I've had this, and I learned this lesson very young, and when I was running for a campaign position in grade school. The first time. I think it was either like 5th grade or 6th grade. I can't remember. Literally, one of the kids won the election vote because he made a bunch of empty promises. And I did not want to do that. I made no empty promises. I made goals. I made no promises. And I said, this is what I want to work on. This is what I'm going to focus on. Not, I'm going to get us vending machines and snacks and all these things. Like, making all these empty promises. And literally, that's every fucking politician, though.
Yeah.
Make empty promises. There are some good ones, like, and exceptions to that, but like a lot of them make empty promises. Some of them will admit we didn't have time. Those ones I appreciate, you know, the ones that be like, look, I made this promise and we just didn't have the time or means or the ability because, you know, politics to fulfill that promise.
Yeah.
But I'm still trying. Versus we're not doing anything like fucking Biden is saying right now. It's just we don't have any plans. We have nothing. Like, what do you mean you have nothing? How many fucking states are fucking pushing for legalization across the nation? You have the entire fucking West Coast, Colorado, fucking Pennsylvania. Literally, you have Tom Wolfe, John Shapiro, and John Fetterman being like, dude, what the fuck's the holdup?
Yeah. It is time that you just fucking do something about it.
Exactly.
Please.
So ending that news thing, I wanted to have you, since you are a resident person, now take this with a grain of salt. Not everyone's experiences is the same.
No.
But I wanted to talk about a little more in depth about being non-binary, because we haven't really done that.
It's a resident person. That's me.
I can give some insight because I used to identify as non-binary, but I think that was just more of a protection thing for me. Because it was maybe or journalized transphobia, but like it was kind of scary just to kind of let the guy side go because I was safer and I knew that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe it was internalized transphobia. I don't know. Hindsight's 2020. But I would let the floor to you.
Yeah. So, I'm a fucking nerd, and I looked up the Webster's dictionary definition.
Oh, is it in Webster's now?
It is Webster's now.
Oh, cool.
Non-binary, as according to Merriam-Webster's Dictionary.com, not restricted to two things or parts, relating to or being a person who identifies with or expresses a gender identity that is neither entirely male nor entirely female.
I have a question. How do they spell it?
Nonbinary.
Okay, so there's no dash.
No dash.
So I could play this in Scrabble.
Yes, you can. You can play this in Scrabble. If Scrabble's word dictionary is weird. Scrabble also has its own rules, so you might have to double check Scrabble's dictionary.
Why? I thought they used the Merriam-Webster dictionary.
Okay, we're tagging them on Twitter in this.
Okay.
When this episode drops, we're tagging them both on Twitter, Merriam-Webster and Scrabble. I'm pretty sure one of the two of them are really cool. They have some sort of cool person in their like public relations department, and they're going to talk to us. That would be awesome. That'd be cool. Yeah. And we'll also can just check this too. But yeah, super cool. I was excited to see that we were in Merriam-Webster. But yeah, so being non-binary, what is it? Well, like you said, not everybody's experiences are the same. I can't speak for all non-binary people. I can only speak for my non-binariness. There are other non-binaries that I also have seen on TikTok. There have been non-binaries that I identify with their kind of way they feel, their gender or lack thereof, because not everybody's human experience is going to be the same, but you can get similar, you can get close, and you can mesh with people that have been on this journey too. And we have different terms underneath this umbrella term. And non-binary is another umbrella term, like transgender is. There's a lot that falls underneath there. There are many different gender expression words. You can be bigender, feeling that you have two different genders. Agender, you don't have a gender. There is you can be genderqueer, which is just your gender is just a quote non-normative experience with gender. That is just there are so many things underneath this umbrella. So
the way I always, real quick, to kind of imagine genderqueer, it was just gender with a question mark. Just
yeah.
I used to identify as gender fluid, so that's another one too.
The thing is that not everybody is going to find that these labels fit them, and not everybody is going to identify this way, and not everybody, if they go underneath one of the other labels, are definitely going to go into the umbrella term, because there are people who feel there are people who identify with the label non-binary, but they don't identify with the label transgender, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because they feel like that's just how they've always been, so that's just how they are. Now, myself, I have a lot of labels, and looking at this, there's a wikigender, by the way. It's like a wiki dot, but it's wikigender. It's wikigender.com, and you can go to all of it. It has all the different genders, all of everything that you can look at, all the different terms and labels and flags that you could possibly find on the internet for things.
Does it also have the genderbread person?
I think so.
Should we explain that after your thing?
Maybe.
Okay.
But that's where I found this, and I was looking at things, and personally, I don't know, because I'm just non-binary. I am not binary. That's what I know. Because sometimes, technically gender fluid fit me? Kind of, but it's not fluid from binaries. I feel like it's not a gradient. It's liquid, gender liquid, not gender solid.
But you're not dancing around the entire spectrum.
Yeah, I'm not around the entire spectrum. But I also, the way that my gender, I feel that my gender is not, it's yes and also no sometimes. And that changes. And it's not a super important distinction, but I feel it. Because some days it's yes, and I'm going to be androgynous, and I want to look I want to make everybody who looks at me confused about their sexuality. And then there's also no, just don't perceive me. I don't want to, I'm just person. I just blend in. I am alien dressed as human. You do not see me. Do not perceive. That's kind of thing.
Do not see the strange man behind the veil operating the machines.
Exactly. That's how some days also how I feel. So non-binary is my more comfy label that fits, because my I feel like also kind of genderqueer fits too, because my experience with gender is very weird and it's very fucky.
Mm-hmm.
It's gender fucked.
So bringing up the genderbread person, that was a way, and I can't remember who made it. It's a way to kind of express and explain your gender identity, because there's like a scale on like, how do you perceive yourself? How do you on the gender spectrum, and it's a one end to another end scale, which I don't like. I like thinking more of like a color wheel.
Yeah.
But
Spectrum.
yes, but it's more of like a gradient.
Yeah.
But you have like, how do you express? How do you present? How do you identify? Because expression and presenting are similar but a little different, and then identification is very different. Should we talk about that a little bit for some?
Yeah,
some
because
people?
that is important to know in general, and that's important to know when you're talking about people who are non-binary. And I also feel like those overlapping parts is what creates somebody's different experience,
Mhm.
because I don't think I have seen or met or heard of someone's journey being on the gender spectrum
Mhm.
that is not it's not the same.
Mhm.
No two people's paths are the same.
But that's also in anything. Like, no two people's journeys are exactly the same.
Yeah.
So, correct me if I'm wrong on these. Gender expression is how you express your gender, and that kind of comes in more of not really masculine. It can in a way, but not really like masculine or feminine. A lot of people do say that, but I think that's more gender presentation. But it's more of how you express it. You can have colors, you can have solids, you can have dresses, you can have suits, you can have makeup, no makeup. And it's just very much of how you express yourself.
It's your performance.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you present yourself to the rest of the world.
And then gender presentation is more of like the masculine, androgynous, and feminine. Like outfits, like dresses, unfortunately, are considered feminine wear. Suits are considered more masculine wear. So androgynous would be, this is a really bad, easy analogy I'm using, is basically like, I don't think you made it that far in the Ale House. But basically someone's outfit is, at one point, is literally just a suit top with like a tutu.
Yes.
And then leggings.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not going to continue on this rant because spoilers for you, but oh my god, I hate it. And it's not the fact that it's a suit and the tutu.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that there is purple in the suit and it's a pink tutu.
Oh, yeah. Should have been purple too.
It should have been purple. But
I think a tooth fairy too.
Yeah. But like that's kind of like in that way, right? Like presentation is more of like with expression, but that's how you're projecting yourself in that particular moment, is more like take me for example. I'm a very masculine woman. I'm very, literally my outfit today, jeans, Vans, my work uniform, and my battle vest with a backwards hat. More masculine presenting. I don't
My fucking type.
I don't normally wear dresses, but when I do, I like feeling very effeminate. But I was more closer to like the middle because I also had makeup on today.
You're beautiful all the time.
Thanks.
Always my type.
But that's kind of like where expression and presentation are.
Yeah.
But identity is a little different, and that's where you get to like cis, trans, non-binary, genderqueer, agender, all that side of the spectrum. That's like who you are.
Yeah.
Like I am a trans woman. You're a non-binary person.
Yes.
My mom's a cis woman.
Yeah.
So like I really like that the gingerbread person is not a great. It is not the end all be all, but it's an easy intro to help you start thinking.
Yeah. And also, can I say, because I have been looking at labels and things, if you feel the need to label yourself, go ahead and find that label that makes you feel happy. Go find that thing. But don't feel pressured to have to find it. You don't have to have all the answers. You are who you are, and you're valid. Even if you're not quite sure how you feel or who you are, and if you're exploring things, you're totally valid. That's how
And-
we all get here in the end.
Exactly. And if your identity changes like mine did,
That's also
that's
so
super
valid.
and it does not invalidate, like me no longer being non-binary does not invalidate people who are non-binary. Just like if someone figures out they're not trans but they're exploring that area, that doesn't make them or trans people invalid for the experience.
Mhm.
Is there anything you want to add to that?
Is there anything I want to add?
Is there?
I thought there was, and it was profound, and now I can't remember what it was.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's gone now. It's this freaking strain. Super glue. This is why my coworker said they forgot how to get into their house. It's the brain fog.
It's that stereotypical
stoner feeling.
Oh, could we talk about, since we got a little time left, what we tried recently?
Yes.
So we microdosed on psilocybin.
That was so much
Not gonna
fun.
say how we got it.
No. I'm not gonna say where it came from.
But we tried it, and it was a fun time.
It was a fun time.
I don't think I had any visual effects, really.
I had a little. It was mostly my visual snow. For those of you who don't know what visual snow is, because I know a lot of people don't know this is a thing, or that you're abnormal for having it, because you are in the minority of people. It is basically like you have a very old TV set, and it's staticky, and you can kind of see the picture through it. That's what it looks like.
For me,
all of the time.
Very opaque. I can only see it on like very dark surfaces, like almost black, or very white surfaces.
Mine varies throughout the day with how tired I am. When my eyes are more strained, it gets worse. So right now, I see it over top of everything. A lot more when I'm stoned, when I smoke. But also whenever we were microdosing on psilocybin, that moved. It moved by itself, free of other things. That's why when we were sitting on the porch, I was just kind of staring off. That's what was happening there. Was my visual snow was making patterns. I also stared at this fucking ceiling for a very long time. Yeah, we got the speckle
ceiling, and
it was moving too.
The
for me,
where it's not like a pattern, but it just took like a big sponge, went back.
Yeah, it was moving for me too. That was fun though.
I think part of it too was how much bigger I am.
Yeah, I'm a small bean.
Because we only got like what 0.6 repeating.
Yeah.
Worth of a gram.
Yeah. So enough to feel it, not enough to start. The walls didn't drop. Nobody had ego death.
I will say, I kind of needed it because I am a lot more grounded. I feel like, which is a double-edged sword for me right now. Is I'm not as forward thinking, so I'm able to draw more. I'm able to live more in the moment than thinking about like I haven't had a anxiety attack about the afterlife since then.
That night, the residuals are great for me.
Yeah.
I don't have the worry of did I lock the door when I lay down to go to sleep, did I lock my door to set my alarm? I know that I did those things. I don't have to check them again. And it's just, I don't know, it takes a lot of the edge off of the everyday like generalized anxiety for me. Because it basically brings you hyper. To me, it brought me really focused into the moment. I was very aware of everything that was going on, and it just allows you to experience those things. And that is a very healing thing.
It is.
And I feel like that's definitely now why I'm like, I want to have some Alex time sometime, because I know that I can recoup that way and I can feel that, and I'll just be like, yes.
I will say though, the double-edged sword for me with being more grounded and kind of living more in the moment, I'm picking up on my dysphoria a lot more.
Yeah.
Because like we were not going into details, doing some stuff recently, and all I kept getting was flashes of me as the guy I used to be, or the person I used to be, doing it, and that kind of made me shut down. I couldn't partake in the event anymore.
That is one thing. We probably will want to put a trigger warning on this episode, just for this end part. Just for like gender stuff, possibly for like people who are like kind of for their dysphoria and stuff. We don't want to like trigger anybody that way.
Okay.
I just to be on the safe side.
Yeah.
But no, that's a thing with like, definitely I feel like after the residual effects of that, and like I feel this with when I smoke weed too, is because I'm more in the moment, I'm more focused, I'm acknowledging my feelings as they come, and sometimes, and this is the PTSD, shit just sneaks up on me from nowhere, and now I'm like, well, shit, I don't have anything to worry about right now to like distract me from this.
So
we're gonna deal with it because it's here.
Yeah.
And that happened at work today too.
Oof.
That it was a song that came on the radio. I was like, I wasn't prepared for the reaction either, and I was just like, well, this is the thing that's gonna happen, and it'll be okay because I'm okay now. Like, it's a good thing. I feel like super healing just to be able to take that little step back and be like, we can deal with this. We're strong now. Like, we're safe enough to do this too. And with everything, like with your medication in the medical marijuana program, or if you are in a state, if you're listening in a state that does have psilocybin being legal for medical microdosing, always be safe. When you're safe enough to do so, to explore those things and help heal that stuff. It's great. And now I know why this helps so many people. It's helped me so much.
I do want to try ayahuasca.
Yeah. I haven't heard great things about the experience.
Oh no, it's gonna fuck you up.
Yeah.
Because the big thing with ayahuasca is DMT.
Yeah.
It's really high in ayahuasca naturally, so you're going to see shit. You are going to have to confront these things, and they're basically the issues you're holding on to are going to manifest themselves in very weird ways, but you're going to come out of the other side stronger.
Listen, I was so fucking. Can I talk about this real quick? I was so scared to do psilocybin that I freaked myself the fuck out. And I talked to one of my friends who has done it before, and I was like, I've accidentally done K2. I'm like, then you're fucking fine. Shut up. I'm like, are you sure? And they're like, shut up. You're gonna have fun. It's all about your mindset. Go have fun.
I went into the experience very much like, okay, I took it. Let's see what happens. That's basically how I was thinking. I wasn't thinking anything. I wasn't thinking like any of like the DARE program bull crap of like, this is what it's going to make me feel. I'm going to start tripping. I'm going to start having all these like that episode of Family Guy where Brian has that big ass trip when he was on mushrooms. I literally just sat there and we're like, okay, let's see what happens. You kept asking me if I was okay.
Yeah.
I kind of melted in the chair.
You were very relaxed looking.
Yeah, I figured out why.
Why?
It's basically my body ended up mimicking like the effects of ginseng. My whole muscle relaxant, basically my body just became a giant muscle relaxant. But we have like 30 seconds, so we should probably wrap up here.
Yeah, we probably should wrap this up. That was an interesting experience.
It really was. Thank you all for listening to this episode. My name is Rayven. I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Alex. I use they, them pronouns.
And this has been another episode of
Smoking Out the Closet.
Rayven here. I just wanted to make a little ad for our Patreon that we started. First and foremost, all the funds generated with this Patreon is going to go directly back into the podcast, whether that's better equipment so we can make better sounding episodes, give you guys really cool stuff like stickers, pictures, nice little trinkets from us, or be able to travel to places where there is legal weed or there's certain LGBT communities that we want to interact with and talk to, and potentially have some really cool guests come on the show. Now, right now our Patreon is bare bones, and I do apologize with that, but we hope to make it a little better as time goes on. Right now we have 3 tiers: flower, vape cartridges, and concentrates. Flower is $3 per month, vapes is $6 per month, and concentrates is $9 per month. With flower, you get access to our Discord, the Scuttle Zone, a private Discord that we have for you guys to kind of interact with each other and potentially interact with us. We have things for like different aspects of the cannabis community and LGBT community where you guys can talk to and kind of just interact with each other and learn from each other, and learn with us. But you also get early access to these episodes. You get a day or two, basically immediately after I'm done editing the episode, I am putting it on the Patreon so you guys can listen to it early. With Vape, you have everything from the flower, but you also have access to the private chat room in the Discord server for one-on-one discussions and questions for us. You'll have the ability to basically be, hey, I have a question about this certain thing, and we'll answer it at the end of every episode. We won't get to everyone all at the same time, obviously, but we'll spread it out through the month and be able to get to as many questions as we can. And then with the concentrates, you get everything from flower and vape, but you also get behind the scenes looks at what we do here. I'll show like what I'm editing and like maybe little sound files or like little clips of what we're working on. Our show notes, so you get to see that early, potentially, knowing what topics we're going to be talking about on this next episode. Pictures of stuff in and outside of the recording stuff, like things like cannabis festivals. We'll take pictures and post some of them online, but with the behind the scenes access, you get to see all of that. Basically, all the dumb faces we make at each other, all the cool stuff that we see, and all the cute things that we find. It's my hope with this Patreon that we'll be able to go far and wide and hopefully be able to see some of you guys or have some live shows in the future where you guys can come and interact with us. And obviously no pressure. I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of this, and first and foremost, take care of you guys yourselves. If you don't have money to support it, or if something happens you have to stop, we totally understand. Thanks.